There's the four kinds of truths that I was learning about this week. It was interesting. Objective truth, subjective truth, normative truth in the middle, which everyone agrees on essentially, and then the complex truth, which is essentially all three of them that build these complex
That's a good typology.
decisions. Yeah, I really like that. So so I'm trying to think about how we bring more types of truths over to the normative and or objective levels, so at least we can develop better complex truth, because you want to base your complex truth less on subjective things, I think, in general, even though you always have some.
Yeah,
But if you can
well, that's the thing. The whole thing is more complex. You can't just say subjective bad, objective good. Not even in
yeah.
this context of facts. Is
Oh,
one
for
of the
sure,
things
for sure.
I've learned through philosophy and debating and things like
Mm.
astrology and all other kinds of stuff. Because there are subjective traits and subjective truths that are essentially universals. And therefore, even though on an individual level, it's just one person for themselves believing something, you could see still a pattern or a trend that it would still be true for most, if not all people who are, let's say, psychologically normal. And so some of these like subjective things, like empathy, like you can't objectivize empathy, however much you try,
Yeah.
but these are the things that you may need to be able to somehow to use them systematically, to be able to
Yeah.
solve the address the problem. And so one of the failings that I see is that the approach is very materialistic, and it really tries very hard to not get into even like normative stuff, because yeah, there are dangers in the normative category. Look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia is essentially the world's first attempt at a global repository of like just objective knowledge that is
Right.
useful to everyone. It's not a bad effort. It is actually pretty good overall, but you still see that there are political camps. Like there's again was in my book was a whole part about how skeptics have their
Yeah.
guerrillas
For that. Yeah.
who train to take control over pages on Wikipedia that
Yeah.
are against their conviction.
Interesting.
So for science.
Yeah.
So you always have this problem that even people who are the reviewers
Yeah.
are corruptible in the sense that they will have politics, or somebody somewhere will have politics and make it their mission to control the normative dimension of like deciding which facts are good facts. And a good current example is the whole coronavirus situation, because essentially it was the banned conspiracy theory that it was a leak from a lab for a very long
Mm.
time, and nobody was allowed to even think it
Yeah.
until evidence somehow, like some persistent people like really pushed it to the forefront, and like maybe now it's at least 50-50. And we were not like 100% sure before we had any evidence and did any investigation. Now we're not 100% sure that it must be a conspiracy theory. And because that's the thing,
Right.
a conspiracy theory is a very toxic term that was, no, if not like, it's not the first people who mentioned it ever in English language, but it was
Mm.
essentially weaponized by the CIA in, I think, the 60s
Mm.
to combat people starting to question the official story of the JFK assassination. It's like we need like a
All right.
label to call them something to like show to everyone immediately that they're witches and heretics and like everybody should laugh at them.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So yeah, because like they wouldn't want you to know about it. Like who's they?
That
No,
makes sense.
like seriously, this is
I
like
like it.
a clear example of how the problem was made worse by intelligence agencies, because
Mm.
they are doing these sorts of things. They're trying to control information, and the term now is just uncritically used in the academia, which is ironic because it's supposed to be all about critical thinking, but they're
Right.
really uncritically. Like they're just people who use the term operate on a basis of we have a list of things that are not true. Why? We never thought about it. But we know somebody gave from the past gave us the list of things that are definitely crazy. So we will
Yeah.
call anybody who mentions them crazy. And we will
Right.
just won't say crazy, we will say conspiracy theorist. And so the way it's being used is not helpful at all. But people who are like in the forefront of trying to solve this problem are the ones who are in the forefront of using this term uncritically without really thinking about the implications of it, the history, or what they're really doing with it.
Right. You keep poking holes in all my prospective solutions here. I've got
Well,
to.
yeah, because that's the thing. Nothing is working right now.
Nothing's
That's a
working. No.
demonstrable fact, or otherwise we would be like, yeah, we solved it.
Yeah,
We
we've
didn't.
got to think of new things. We've got to think of
Yeah,
new things that could work that haven't been tried yet.
yeah.
That's what
So
we got.
that's what I'm getting to very slowly, because like first I really have to go through this depressing slog of like
I
everything
agree.
that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because again,
Okay.
It's not nothing, and it's not that the ideas on which the movement to fix the internet is based on, it's not like all of them are wrong fundamentally. It's just you at least need the people who are in charge of the process. So like first actual solution step. You need the people
Yes.
who are in charge of fixing the situation to be the ones who are able to think critically about it, who know the history, and who are actually actively aware of what the dangers are and are trying to avoid them. So it's like part of the solution is in character. Like the character of the people who are the ones who are fixing the problem matters, which is just
Right.
complicated by the fact that this whoever sets out to fix it, somebody who is a malicious actor will try to hijack it.
Right.
Because they realize, bad actors realize that being the ones who are like fixing the fake news on the internet is a great power position to be in.
Right.
So you have to
Just-
expect that there will be bad actors like jumping on the opportunity to ruin the
yeah,
fixing.
it's the same debate you have with the cults, zeitgeist and all that we talked about. So definitely makes sense here that we have to have good policies to keep that from happening, to
Yeah,
keep
but that's the
bad
thing.
people getting power.
Like what I'm not entirely sure about is like how you can filter the people with the right character to be in charge of the situation, because they won't naturally get there systemically, because they won't be the actors with the most money. Because like yeah, if you have a whole bunch of money, then and you happen to be a person of like the right character, then you can just barge in because like you can use the money to get into the position.
Okay.
But also the people who are like the bad actors or who are fanatically like zealously political about something, they are more motivated usually than the sane
Yeah.
people who would be the right people for that process. So while I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure like how you could make the, it would be I guess situational based on the current world situation. Like it could be a different way to get them there in any particular historical moment. It's just like you need to get people there who are actual critical thinkers. Because without that, even if they have the technology, the other dangers will just mean that the project is doomed.